that bitch for the whole time. Damn, you brought so much that shit. You brought some good shit.
To start off, I'd say that it's important for us to clarify and define our terms, especially with the latter part of the question being spirituality and religion, because they're not synonymous. Spirituality is more so of like the search for internal meaning and like one's personal, more individual quest to find meaning within their own lives. So that meaning can and lead to a result in finding a religion that works for you. I believe religions are supposed to be things that just work for people. But spirituality would be that internal finding, and religion being more so the practices and like the actual like doctrines and dogmas that different religions that they frequently practice. So religion basically is like the certain practices and the one could say rituals that a person that is following a religion would do, whereas spirituality is the essence of searching for internal or like inner meaning.
Do you think it's outdated?
Don't think it's outdated. People like to say it's archaic. There's no need. We're so much smarter. You know, in the American bubble, it's easy to be like, all right, we have so much science and stuff like that. There's no need for us to prioritize religion to ethically go about our lives because we already know that intrinsically. But also, like, that's why people, you know, take the agnostic route. That's why people take the atheist route. Obviously, it's hard to define that, and that's why it's okay for a person like me, a follower of Christ, to say that they don't know exactly and they can't prove to you what we're saying the absolute truth. But at the same time, it just makes more sense with the evidence provided and the evidence that we do have. It just makes more sense for us to believe in something more complex and intricate that was designed by somebody instead of no design creating all of that. You know what I'm saying? Per the evidence and my experience, it makes it easier to believe that rather than the previous point or the atheistic view.
To answer the question on your question on whether or not I think it's outdated, I feel like this modern society, or at least the generation that I'm growing up in, it's become a lot less of a priority for a lot of people. I find myself meeting a lot of people who aren't religious, whatever that their religion being or their family religion being. A lot of people who say that they've had bad experiences in churches or places of worship, and that's what's brought them to not want to be religious or practice any type of religion. But I feel like kind of don't see an appeal in it anymore for whatever reason. I feel like they might find it boring or just not as interesting, and then once they see that other people aren't wanting to practice it for the same reasons, then they kind of all assimilate to that of not wanting to believe in it. You know what I'm saying? Or not wanting to practice any type of religion. I don't know. So like, I want to ask you guys, like, what would you say to somebody my age? You guys are both Christian. They've had a bad experience in the church, and whatever that situation being, what would you say to them? Like, how would you handle that situation?
I would say you're still young. You know, you have so much to learn. And even if you don't feel welcomed in one house, that doesn't mean that there are not so many other churches that you could possibly feel welcomed at. You know what I mean? Now, depending where you are, like we're talking from our standpoint, living in a big city, there's multiple different churches that you could tap into. Also, there's also different religions.
But that kind of goes against, I want to see what Felipe would say to what you just said, because Felipe said earlier that a lot of people see religion as something that you can buy in a store. You know what I'm saying? So like you just said, if you're not feeling one religion, why don't you try another one? So like, what do you think about that point that you just made?
I would say that proper way to go about confusion when it comes to, you know, your own spirituality would be, I particularly am a more historical type of person. So like I base my legitimacy of things on like historical evidence and stuff like that, and things that are verifiable, just like anybody else would like to see if they're, especially when they're in the business of looking for a faith that works for them. So I think 100% the first thing to do would be just, it's hard, but like study. Like you have to study and see for yourself, like read for yourself. Don't watch YouTube videos or reading stats like this religion is the most happiest or this religion is the most, you know, prosperous per, you know, the dogmas that are within it. That's not the way to go about it, bro. It's more about like, we are in this time period where we can just look at anything within the reach of our fingertips and find all the information that we need about a certain topic. So there's no reason for any of us to say that we are ignorant about something or like comment, well, we want to get closer to God, but I just don't know how. It's like, it's just right in front of you. Like you just have to read it. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to read, compare, read the Quran too, read different Buddhist teachings and all that, and different religions and different scriptures within those different religions, and to be able to verify for yourself what makes the most sense. And to me, that's Christianity. Given the evidence and all the other things that I've experienced myself, that's what I found is most plausible for the explanations of various different things of our existence. So it would just be a matter of looking for yourself to see what makes the most sense, what explains the most about my experience and the reality that I live in each day.
Also, just to clarify, like, my point, that's kind of also like what I was trying to say. I wasn't trying to say like practice.
I think that's what you're trying
Yeah, like, I'm not trying to say like practice of the religions, like just study it. And
it just has to be studied though.
Right, study it for yourself, because you're gonna be brought up a different way. Like, maybe you might be brought up in a Muslim household, and that's the religion that you know. You know what I mean? So that's why I say pick different religions, because everybody's different. Shit like that.
Not to go shopping and blind faith.
Right. No.
Yeah. But to that point, though, what you were saying, that for telling people to do their research, I feel like with that point that you brought up about how people need to study, a lot of people in this generation are just too lazy. And they're going to say that, but they're going to encounter that they're going to need to take time to do their own research, and it's going to be mentally challenging, and it's going to be so easy for them just to give up. So I feel like that's another reason why religion might be seen as outdated, not as important in this generation and in America, because they just don't want to go out of their way to find that sense of the outlet of peace. You know what I'm saying?
It's important to look at why the current state of society is like that, why we don't necessarily need or find like a yearning for it. And that kind of goes back to what I was saying with regard to like a more, and these are not the only things that pertain or contribute to like a more secular society. I'm just saying, per logistics and probability, a more economically developed and country that is very comfortable, superpower status, very not as much of a threat to war, things like that. Obviously, that will lead a country to make it rely heavily and more heavily on prioritization of like equality and other social values, instead of focusing on traditional values that come with a God-fearing nation. Or it doesn't even have to be God, just a nation that has a very strong spiritual foundation that is uniform, or at least for the most part uniform across the country. And if we trace it all the way back, there have been so many factors and variables that have contributed to the current state of society in the United States, to the point where like obviously more things are wanting to be verified through science instead of trying to be reverted back to an archaic book that doesn't seem to hold as much meaning anymore, because times are changing. And this is just a sign of the times that we're just getting smarter, advancing. We're realizing what works, what doesn't, and people just throw things that don't work away. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like it's an accumulation of things that have culminated to this. But in my personal belief, it's still important to refer back to those traditional values, not just saying Christian, Eurocentric values, Protestant values, the foundations of the country. But it's more so just like, I feel like those values are not outdated at all, and rather they still pertain to the objectiveness of our moral code in the United States. Like, obviously, for most people, you would say that it's not good to kill anybody, or it's not good to hurt anybody, or treat anybody less than you would yourself, which are all basic objective truths. Some people can't explain where they come from, and to me, it just makes more sense to explain an objective truth coming from a higher power rather than from nothing, or rather than just from by chance, because we're animals that just have certain chemicals firing off in our brains at certain moments, and that makes people love each other. To me, that doesn't make sense. And it just makes more sense with something that I can't even fully explain. You know what I'm saying? Rather than something that is just broken down and concluded to a certain point instead of concluded all the way. And I'm not saying I have the final answer either, but it just is more plausible, I believe.
Like you said, you don't have all the answers. I definitely don't have all the answers. Jonathan doesn't have all the answers. But it's still important to have these conversations and even think about it. Okay, why do I feel like this? Or why do I have a moral compass? Or when I do something bad, why do I feel guilty? It can't be just because of a science or some bullshit like that. And it also goes with that, if you don't feel welcomed in one house, then maybe start having questions or conversations with people who are rooted in their faith, and even different people from different religions who are rooted in their faith, and be like, okay, this is something that aligns with me, and this is something that's calling me. It's telling me that, okay, I have to follow this.
Alright guys, I thought we recorded an outro, but I guess it didn't record. I don't have any footage of the outro that I recorded. So if you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Comment down below, let us know what you think. And yeah, I hope to see you all in the next video.
Flood a little bit with some water, new rich, a quarter, now you can't afford it, I swear to you, my drink can't go out of order, this shit cross the border, and I Mr. Porter. My dog rich in life for his daughter, over here like now he back with his brothers.